The first time was when our son was born. He just tossed a wad of cash at me. The second time was when his mother passed away. He held me and said I'd been through a lot. The last time was when I lay bedridden from years of toil and illness, and he looked down at me with pity, his white moonlight by his side. I've given you the marriage. That's more than enough on my part. For the rest of my life, I ought to make it up to Shaha. In the end, I was literally driven to my grave by rage. My spirit watched as Sun Yan used the inheritance my parents left for me to start a factory, become a tycoon, and travel the world with Xia He. Given a second chance at life, I found myself back in the 1980s. This time, I secured my parents' inheritance first, then enrolled in a university in Beijing to make a clean break and start anew. But when he learned where I was headed, Sun Yan regretted it all over again. Oh, that poor girl Jinhua, to lose both her parents so suddenly. What's there to worry about? Isn't she betrothed to the Su boy? It's a real windfall for the Su family, though. Everyone knows Jinua's parents made a tidy sum driving all over the country these past years, and now with the town driver's position vacant, it'll likely go straight to that Su lad, sitting in the middle of the crowd, with the buzz of hushed whispers in my ears. I finally dared to believe I had truly been reborn. I had returned to the moment my parents died in the car crash. Just as the village chief was gathering people to discuss what to do with me, Sun Yan's parents, standing nearby, flashed a smug smile before pulling me into a hug and shedding a few crocodile tears. Rest assured, everyone, Jinyu and my son Sun Yan have been betrothed for some time now. We will certainly not abandon her. From now on, we will take Jinyu in and raise her as our own. I looked towards Sun Yan, who was standing not far away, at that moment. His youthful features were etched with impatience. I knew he was in a hurry to meet Xia He for their date, utterly indifferent to, or perhaps already confident about, the matter being discussed today. After all, we grew up together since we were kids. With my parents gone, he thought I'd have no one else to rely on but him. Alright, then it's settled. Village chief, I don't want to go to the Su family. I cut the village chief off mid-sentence, under the disbelieving gazes of Sun Yan's parents. I spoke slowly and deliberately. I'm already 18 and perfectly capable of taking care of myself, so I won't trouble Uncle and Auntie Su. Besides, Sun Yan and I are just ordinary friends. A childhood betrothal our parents arranged verbally doesn't count for anything. We're in a new era now. We can't cling to such outdated customs. Furthermore, I propose we open up the town driver position for fair competition. As the leadership says, we shouldn't just follow rules blindly or hand the job to Sun Yan without proper vetting just because of our old betrothal. We should let Uncle Li and Uncle Wang from the village try out for it as well. After I finished speaking, some people looked pleased, while Sun Yan's parents completely lost their smiles. Sun Yan's gaze towards me was also filled with confusion and bewilderment, and a hint of disdain. It's probably just a little spat between Jinhua and our Sun Yan these past couple of days. Village chief, don't you think such a big matter should be discussed again in a few days? Jinhua living alone is bound to get bullied. We can't just let her have her way. The Su parents, old foxes that they were, weren't about to let a prize slip from their grasp. They immediately concocted an excuse. The village chief pondered for a moment before saying, let's revisit this another time. For now, Jinhua is free to choose where she stays. However, we need to fill the town driver position promptly. The girl has a point. We shouldn't just go by the book. Let's open it up for applications and have a fair competition. Sun Yan's face twisted as if he'd just swallowed a fly. The moment the crowd dispersed, he pulled me aside to a secluded spot. What's the meaning of this? That driver's position was supposed to be mine, and with one word you just gave it away. Do you have any idea how many people are fighting for that plum job? Sun Yan clicked his tongue softly, his brow furrowed in clear impatience. Just then, Xia He came looking for us. She wedged herself between Sun Yan and me, as if guarding against a thief. Are you angry, Jinyu? Because Brother Su plans to take me out, but it's wrong of you to joke about his future like that. I looked at Xia He's fair complexion and her delicate, scallion-like hands, which bore no calluses, nothing like the hands of someone who had ever done manual labor. In my previous life, Xia He, a sent-down youth, was assigned to live with the Su family. Sun Yan, who had never met a city girl before, was drawn to her, and a subtle, ambiguous relationship gradually developed between them. I was kept completely in the dark, naively believing they were just like brother and sister. This was because Sun Yan, in an attempt to curry favor, brought me a few eggs and some candies. He said Xia He was too young for hard labor in the fields and asked me, as her future sister-in-law, to help share her workload, so I ended up doing her share of the work as well. I remember looking at my calloused hands and chapped face, envying Shaha in front of Sun Yan. When Sun Yan let out a scornful laugh, sharp as a blade piercing my self-respect. She was born with it. No amount of wishing on your part will change that. Stop putting that cheap herbal paste on your face. Xiaohe only uses imported face cream. My face flushed bright red as I threw away the herbs I had secretly gathered from the mountain. I only dared to apply the herbal paste on my face late at night, when everyone was fast asleep. I thought no one had noticed, but Xunyan made me feel utterly worthless with such ease. In my past life, if Xiaohe hadn't mocked me as I lay sick in bed, I might never have seen the truth. I spent that entire lifetime slaving away for Xunyan and Xiaohe. In this life, I'm going to see for myself. Let's see how Xiaohe's natural beauty holds up after being forced to toil in the fields, day in and day out, battered by the wind and sun. What's it to you? Who the hell do you think you are, telling me what to do? What does Sun Yan have to do with you, unless you two are? I shot back. Having been given a second chance at life, I'd be a complete idiot to show them any courtesy this time around. What nonsense are you talking? He and I are just like siblings. Why are you picking on a young girl like her? Sun Yan's face darkened, as if his guilty conscience had been exposed. Stop making a scene. I know you're a bit jealous of my relationship with He. Just go tell the village chief to say the driver's position for me, and I'll take you out to have fun too. He waved his hand at me as if bestowing a great favor. A trace of smug certainty on his face. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him, so I turned and walked away. I heard Sun Yan's parents approach and ask how things were going. Sun Yan said dismissively, "Don't worry, I'll take her out for some fun, and I guarantee she'll be completely appeased. It's not like you don't know how much Su Jinhua loves me." I let out a cold laugh, went home, and dug up a specific corner of the cellar. I dug for what felt like ages before I finally hit a chest. When I opened it, it was packed full of artifacts, and they looked like they'd been around for a good long while. In my past life, after I moved into the Su household, I brought these things with me. It was mostly for sentimental value, but over a decade later, they became highly sought-after antiques. It was the money Sun Yan got from selling them that provided the seed capital to start the factory. These are all heirlooms passed down through my family. I'll use them to carve out my own path in this world. A few days later, the position of the town's driver was settled. It went to our next-door neighbor, Uncle Li. When Aunt Li heard the news, she brought me a sack of grain. I quickly tried to decline, but she held on to me, her voice brimming with gratitude. "It's all thanks to you, Jinhua. How else would my husband have gotten that driver's job? Your parents always looked out for us too. If you ever need anything, you come straight to your auntie." A wave of warmth washed over me. After seeing Aunt Li off, the front door to my house was suddenly kicked open. Sun Yan stormed in, looking for a fight, his eyes chillingly cold. "What on earth are you making such a fuss about? Didn't you understand what I told you before? Now look what's happened. Someone else has taken the driver job. How am I supposed to provide for you from now on?" I knew Sun Yan wasn't just furious about losing his job. It was also because he had promised his sweetheart that he'd save up a few months' wages to buy Xiaohe a watch. You have to understand, a watch was a valuable item back then. In my past life, I always thought Xiaohe's watch was sent to her by her parents. I never imagined that Sun Yan, who wouldn't even spend a few cents on candy for me, would splurge 120 yuan on a watch for her. "You'll support me. You earn fewer work points than I do right now. What are you going to support me with? Just empty promises," I said with a sneer. Sun Yan's eyes instantly reddened with rage. "You've really gone too far. Don't think I won't call off this marriage. With no parents to your name, who else would even want you? Good riddance. I'd be better off marrying anyone but you." I shot back. Sun Yan stared at me for a long moment, his tone finally softening. "I know you're just lashing out because you're in shock after your parents' sudden passing. Don't say things you don't mean. We've known each other for over a decade. I'm the only one who's ever truly been good to you." All I felt inside was a hollow, icy indifference. Sun Yan's so-called goodness was just a manipulative act. After we got married, he abandoned me, cut off all contact, and vanished without a trace. He used the inheritance my parents left me to start a factory, then ran off to live happily ever after with Xiaohe. I was left alone in the countryside, supporting his parents and raising our son. I shouldered all the responsibilities by myself, which eventually led to exhaustion, illness, and an early death. I had no intention of dealing with him anymore, but then it suddenly hit me that the college entrance exams would be reinstated in a year. Having been reborn, I've forgotten most of my knowledge. I need to dedicate more time to studying, so earning work points can no longer be my responsibility. I gave a slight shrug and put on that same adoring expression I used to have for Sun Yan. "I'm sorry, I've just felt so insecure since my parents passed away." "When you say you're the best to me, in what way do you mean?" Sun Yan visibly relaxed. thinking I was back to being the same gullible person as before. Look, after your parents were gone, my family was the only one willing to take you in. Isn't that good enough for you? I was speechless. If his family wasn't after the money my parents left me, they would have kicked me to the curb long ago. I just knew Brother Sue cared for me the most. It's just that, with my parents passing recently, my mind's been all foggy. Could you help me with the farm work I'm supposed to do? Sun Yan's composure nearly shattered, and he was on the verge of calling her delusional, but then he remembered what his own parents had said. You have to win the person over first before you can get your hands on the inheritance from her parents. I managed to hold back. You're going to be my wife, so helping you is only right and proper. You're the best, Brother Sue. Touched, I rushed into the house and gathered up a pile of old junk to give to Sun Yan. Sun Yan, who had been strutting around the courtyard just moments before, froze in place. Every time he came to my house before, he would drop hints about what his own home was lacking, and I would always generously give him something. Sometimes it was the powdered milk my mother bought for me, or even household appliances. I scoffed. Don't you dare try to take advantage of me again. Ever since Sun Yan started helping me with the work, I was delighted by this arrangement and had someone buy a stack of books from the city for me to read at home. The Sue family made their living entirely on work points. Back when my parents arranged the engagement between Sun Yan and me, it was solely because they saw him as honest and good-natured. I also understood well that managing people couldn't rely solely on pressure. You had to offer a carrot now and then, so, from time to time, I'd give away $1 or $2 from the money my parents left me, which was just enough to keep Sun Yan happy and help him win Xia He's favor. However, things weren't so easy for Xia He. Ever since I stopped doing Xia He's share of the work, Sun Yan not only had to do his own tasks but also mine and Xia He's. Over time, it was inevitable that he started to resent Xia He. One day, as I was passing by the fields, I saw Sun Yan patiently teaching Xia He how to farm. Xia He stood to the side, on the verge of tears, and said, "You promised that once I came to your home, I wouldn't have to do any work, you liar." Sun Yan tried to soothe her for a while, but finally lost his patience and muttered, "Su Jingyue is only a year older than you. What makes you so much more delicate than her?" I almost burst out laughing when I heard that. In their past life, they never faced any real hardship, so their bond seemed unbreakable. Looking at it now, it wasn't all that special after all. Later, Sun Yan managed to smooth things over with her. He took her shopping in town, and it just so happened I was there buying the latest batch of study materials. Xia He spotted me and warmly grabbed my hand, calling me sister-in-law. I knew right then, she wanted something from me again. Sure enough, she casually picked out a few pieces of clothing, bought several bags of sesame cakes and crispy fried dough twists, and also purchased 2 jean of pork. While trying on the clothes, Sun Yan adjusted her collar for her. Their behavior was intimate, as if they were leaning against each other, trying on clothes and ending up in each other's arms. Huh, you two must be really close. Upon hearing my voice, the people around immediately looked towards Xia He. The person in question hurriedly pulled away from the embrace. "Sis, you've got it all wrong. Brother Sue was just straightening my collar for me." Sun Yan also thought I was jealous and snapped at me. "What nonsense are you spouting? Xia He is a decent girl. Are you trying to ruin her reputation with these rumors?" I lowered my head, feigning hurt. "But so many people say they saw with their own eyes that you, Brother Sue, personally washed Xia He's feet, bought her all sorts of things, and treat her much better than you treat me." Surrounded by so many onlookers, Xia He's face gradually turned pale. Before, she had repeatedly and deliberately acted intimate with Sun Yan in front of me, just to make me jealous, but I didn't dare say anything to their faces, and could only silently shed tears off to the side by myself. Xia He thought I would be the same this time, never expecting I'd dare to shout her and Sun Yan's business out loud for all to hear. The weight of public scorn was enough to drown her. Sun Yan suddenly roared, shoving his way in front of me. "Apologize, Su Jingyue. Have I spoiled you too much? What kind of jealous shrew are you, getting worked up over anyone? Apologize to Xia He right now." "It's okay, Brother Sue." Xia He looked at me through her tears, sniffling. "Sister-in-law is from the countryside and hasn't seen the city. She can only judge us with her narrow perspective. Please don't blame her. See, that's how kind Xia He is. She's not even holding it against you." A hint of entitlement crept into Sun Yan's usually haughty expression. "As her sister-in-law, it's only right you make it up to her. I think you should pay for all this stuff she's buying." "Sure." The corner of my mouth lifted in a smirk as I pushed through the crowd to the sales assistant and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, let me pay first. Xia He says I'm just a country bumpkin who doesn't understand city etiquette, so I'm buying her these things to apologize." I pulled out a handful of crumpled bills from my pocket, but just as I was about to pay, a hand pressed down on mine. What are you apologizing for? Seems like someone's trying to take advantage of your parents being away to make off with your family's things. The speaker was Auntie Lee from next door. She shot a meaningful glance at Xia He. What's wrong with being from the countryside? Are you telling me you city folks consider that kind of clinging and cuddling between you and Sun Yan to be proper manners? We country folk wouldn't dare imagine such things. Xiaohe has been in our village for 2 years now, and she's always maintained a sweet-talking, kind-hearted image in front of everyone. After Aunt Lee said her piece, the way everyone looked at Xiaohe completely changed. Xiaohe's eyes welled up with frustration as she pleaded. That's not what I meant at all. Sun Yan came to my side and whispered to me, it's your careless words that pushed Xiaohe into this corner. You need to explain things to everyone. Now, I pulled my hand free from Auntie Lee's grasp and handed over the money. It's fine, Auntie. I consider Xiaohe a good friend. This one time won't break me. Besides, I was the one who bought all those things for her before. I said it without a second thought, but to everyone else's ears, it took on a whole different meaning. When my parents were alive, many folks in the village had received their kindness, so, when they heard I'd been Xiaohe's personal piggy bank for so long, their first instinct was to take me straight to the village chief. Xiaohe was an educated youth from the city. For her to set her sights and schemes on someone like me, an orphan, was really a bit much. Seeing the situation unfold, Xiaohe instantly panicked. Sun Yan quickly stopped the crowd. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. I am Jin Yu's fiancé. With Uncle Su and Aunt Su gone, I'm the only family she has left, and Xiaohe is like a younger sister to me. It's only natural for her, as a future sister-in-law, to buy a few things for her. There's no need to trouble the village chief. Upon hearing this, everyone turned their eyes to me. I knew they were waiting for my opinion. After all, these aunties have watched me grow up and know exactly how I feel about Sun Yan. They're afraid that by making a scene, they'll make Sun Yan resent me. They're not worried about Xia He. Their real concern is how I'll face Sun Yan afterwards. A wave of warmth welled up inside me. In my past life, after my parents passed, I fixated entirely on the Su family. I clung to them like a lifeline. Terrified of being abandoned and left alone, I went out of my way to please them, while turning a blind eye to the care others offered. In this life, seeing these familiar faces once again fills me with warmth. I don't want to reject their kindness, but I'm not ready to have a falling out with Sun Yan just yet. The college entrance exams are still a while off, and I still need him to do things for me. Here's an idea. Have Xia He write me an IOU. Just a signature will do. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Xia He breathe a sigh of relief, and Sun Yan also wore a satisfied expression. A smile touched my eyes as I helpfully suggested, why don't we have Sun Yan's parents sign as well? Since Xia He is staying at their place, they should act as guarantors. Otherwise, if she were to run off, how would I ever get my money back? At that, Xia He's smile vanished completely, and she shot me a look tinged with resentment. Her mind was still set on returning to the city, waiting for her parents to land her a good job. Once she was thousands of miles away, who in this backwater town would ever be able to track her down? But it would be a different story if Sun Yan's parents got involved. The only reason Sun Yan's parents are being somewhat civil to her is because of his feelings for her, and the fact she's from the city. If they ever really move back, who knows, Sun Yan might still manage to marry a city girl to show off. But with Xia He secretly racking up such a huge debt behind everyone's backs, anyone would be upset. Who could possibly be happy about that? Xia He even approached me in private. Su Jinyue, don't you want to marry Sun Yan anymore? Just write off my debt, and I promise I'll make him devoted to you. I feigned confusion and asked, how is it that you can make brother Su so devoted to me? You seem to know him even better than I do. Xia He was left speechless, unable to get a word out. After all, my previous foolish persona was deeply ingrained in everyone's mind, so she couldn't be sure whether or not I had caught on to her secret relationship with Sun Yan. If I hadn't figured it out, her saying this would be like shooting herself in the foot. Who knows, if I got angry, I might just demand she pay back the money right then and there. In the end, Sun Yan somehow managed to get his parents to sign. I wasn't really surprised by that. After all, Sun Yan is completely smitten with Xia He these days. He must have promised his parents some kind of benefit. However, life hasn't been as easy for Xia He as it was before. Her complexion had lost its former rosy glow, and she seemed to rotate between the same two outfits. I heard her stepmother had sold off the rest of her clothes for a pittance. As the day for announcing the resumption of the college entrance exams drew near, my anxiety grew more intense. With it being the first year the exams were being held again, no one knew what to expect in terms of difficulty or question types. I had little confidence and could only bury myself deeper in my books. Sun Yan has come to see me a few times over the years. Perhaps he was unaccustomed to me no longer clinging to him as I used to, so he took the initiative to bring me to a shop in town. Pointing at the gold rings and bracelets in the shop with a hint of disdain, he said to me, "Jean, you pick out a few things and buy them. Consider it my betrothal gift to you." "I should buy them." I frowned. He paused for a moment. "Right, your parents left you a decent amount, didn't they? A ring and a bracelet wouldn't cost that much. Your money will be mine eventually anyway. Consider this an early withdrawal." A cold laugh suddenly escaped me. Sun Yan saw it, and his pride instantly made him snap. "Su Jinyue, don't be so ungrateful. Marrying you is already more than you deserve. Go ask around and see who else goes out of their way to buy their bride gold rings and bracelets." His words came faster and faster, a clear sign of his guilt. Seeing him act as if he were bestowing a great favor, I couldn't hold back a scornful laugh. "You buy me a gold bracelet with my own money, and you expect me to be grateful?" Indeed, in my past life, even the slightest kindness from him was enough to make me content. I never bothered to read between the lines of his words, simply taking it as a sign that he still cared enough to buy me things. Without waiting for Sun Yan to respond, I turned and walked away. "There's no rush to buy it now. Let's wait until you have the money." Watching my back as I walked away without a moment's hesitation, a flicker of unease suddenly stirred in Sun Yan's heart. This was actually an idea from Xia He. Su Jinyue had indeed been acting strange lately. Xia He said that even in hunting, you need to know when to tighten and when to loosen the reins, and sometimes you have to give the prey a little reward. So, he suggested having Su Jinyue foot the bill for a gold bracelet. In his mind, Su Jinyue should have let bygones be bygones and happily thrown herself into his arms. At the very least, she would have given him some money, which he could have used to buy something for Xia He. He just never expected her to react this way. The news of the nationwide reinstatement of the college entrance exams reached every household via the radio, and I finally felt settled. If I get into university, I'll study and serve my country. If I don't, I'll take my parents' inheritance and go make my own way in the world. The sights Sun Yan saw in his past life, I'm determined to see them in this one, and it's not just me. Upon hearing that the national college entrance exams were reinstated, Sun Yan, Xia He, and several other peers from our village all picked up their books and started studying again. Time flew by, and several months had passed by the time the exam results were released. The day I received the acceptance letter from Peking University, a weight I had been carrying in my heart was finally lifted. God knows how terrified I was of failing the exam. Thank goodness it all worked out in the end. Along with my acceptance letter came one for another boy from my village, who also got into a good university. However, Sun Yan and Xia He couldn't quite accept it. They went to the town to confront the authorities, demanding to know if someone had stolen their admission letters. The townsfolk didn't care about any of that. After being locked up and lectured a few times, they just slunk back home. When my uncles, aunts, and elders in the village heard I got into university, every household chipped in something for me. They held my hands and said, "Don't think it's too little. You're the college student from our village. We're proud and feel it's our duty to look out for you on behalf of your parents." With tears welling in my eyes, I nodded. "Don't worry, everyone. Su Jinyue, will never forget my roots. Once I make something of myself, I'll never forget the people of this village." A snort of laughter came at a rather inopportune moment. Following the sound, I saw it was Sun Yan's parents, paying no mind to the onlookers. They warmly pulled me into their home. The moment I stepped inside, I saw both Sun Yan and Xia He in the courtyard. The first thing Sun Yan said upon seeing me was, "Give your university acceptance letter to He." I gave the Su parents a somewhat puzzled look. I had already guessed their intention, thinking they wanted to give my acceptance letter to Sun Yan, but I never expected it was for Xia He. I have to say, Sun Yan's feelings for Xia He really run deep, and what if I refuse? I'd like to see what they can possibly do about it. Jinyue, I promise you, if you just concede to Xia He, I'll set a date for our wedding right away. After that, we can go out into the world together and make our own way. Oh, make our own way. Sun Yan's eyes lit up, thinking he had convinced me, and he quickly said, "Exactly. It feels like things are gradually loosening up. Who knows, if we go out and take a chance, we might stumble upon some opportunities." I have to admit, even though Sun Yan is a bit of a scoundrel, the fact that he became a big boss in his past life shows he's got some brains. He's already picked up on the scent of something. Alright, I nodded thoughtfully, but why give it specifically to Xia He? Don't give me that "I treat her like a little sister" line. Don't tell me you two are. Impossible. Sun Yan hastily denied it, but the words to explain himself just wouldn't come out. In the end, It was only after Mr. and Mrs. Su pulled me into some small talk that the subject was finally dropped. That evening, the Zus insisted I stay for dinner. I made a show of wanting to help in the kitchen and overheard the old couple whispering by the doorway. Do you really think we should give the university opportunity to Xiaohe? Wouldn't it be better to give it to our own Nian Nian? What do you know? Xiaohe's parents are doing well in the city. Once she goes to university and makes something of herself, she can pave the way for our son. But what? She's already given herself to our son. You think she'll run away? If our boy doesn't make it on his own, he can always rely on Xiaohe. Besides, that girl's parents must have left her a tidy sum. A young man needs some capital to venture out into the world. Once he's made it big, he can just kick her to the curb. Every single word of the old couple's scheming reached my ears. I just smiled. Let them enjoy their happiness for a few more days. In the following days, Sun Yan treated me like a precious treasure. Terrified that I might run away, as soon as Xiaohe got a bit full of himself, he came bouncing right back in front of me. Jin Yu, it's all thanks to you that I could go to university. You just stay in this little backwater and spend your whole life watching over Sun Yan. I know deep down she's laughing at me for giving up my chance to go to college. Sun Yan loves her too, which makes her feel superior to me. I lowered my head and went along with what she said. Marrying brother Su and spending my life with him is my dream. I'm perfectly content. Xiaohe covered her mouth with a light chuckle and nudged Sun Yan with her elbow. Sun Yan had expected this answer, but there was a hint of something else mixed in. He thought I was acting a bit off recently. But seeing me so love-struck now made him think he was just overthinking it. Sun Yan took advantage of me looking down to cop another feel of Xiaohe's backside. The two of them were making eyes at each other right under my nose, which made me sick to my stomach. Sun Yan kept pestering me to give the admission letter to Xiaohe first. I just played the part of the love-struck fool, giving him a shy smile and telling him I'd hand it over on our wedding day. Upon hearing this, Sun Yan immediately and with great fanfare put the wedding plans on the fast track. Meanwhile, I took advantage of this time to visit the village chief and our neighbor, Auntie Li. Once all the arrangements were settled, I was already aboard the train bound for Jingda University. Coincidentally, that very day was the wedding date Sun Yan had set. After spending a few months of university life at Jingda, I finally realized just how blissful this second chance at life truly was. One day, while running errands off campus, I caught sight of a familiar figure. Sun Yan blocked my path, his eyes blazing with anger. Su Jinyue, you have such a cruel heart. You stole Xiaohe's chance to go to university. Do you have any idea you've ruined her entire life? The moment Sun Yan said this, all eyes in the room turned to me. After all, the national college entrance exams had just been reinstated. Taking someone else's university spot was no small matter. I let out a cold laugh. I stole her chance. Why don't you tell everyone what score Xiaohe actually got? How your whole family pressured me to give up my spot for her? Should I go and have a word with the officials who investigate this sort of thing? Sun Yan's bravado instantly deflated. He stammered, then come back with me and get married. Do you have any idea how much shame your running away brought on my family? Everyone's laughing at me. In your dreams. I shot back without a moment's hesitation. What's so great about university anyway? A woman's place is at home, supporting her husband, raising children, and honoring the elders. Sun Yan was getting desperate, bewildered by how suddenly and completely I seemed like a stranger to him. He grabbed my hand. Jin Yu, didn't you say marrying me was the dream of a lifetime? If you just come back with me now and marry me, I can let bygones be bygones. We can live a stable, peaceful life together. Though Sun Yan spoke with apparent sincerity, the jealousy in his eyes was practically overflowing. In his past life, Sun Yan hadn't gotten into university either, and he always carried a tinge of envy for those who had. He's just bitter that someone who used to follow him around got into Peking University, a place he could never get into himself, and now he wants to drag that person down. Jinyue, is this your fiancé? A voice cut in. It was my university classmate, Zhang Mingyan. The moment Sun Yan saw him, his agitation intensified. Well, Su Jinyue, is this your new fling? No wonder you've been acting so strange lately. Slap. Without a moment's hesitation, I cut him off with a sharp slap across the face. Have you no shame? Don't you know why I did that? In my past life, I raised his son and supported his elderly parents for him. On top of farming, I even had to take on odd jobs in town. The entire family's burden fell squarely on my shoulders. What about Sun Yan's parents? Sun Yan would often send them money. But not only did they keep it from me, they were constantly playing the poverty card right in front of me. They think I must have stashed away some of the money my parents left me, and they want me to hand it all over. My son, following in Sun Yan's footsteps, joined his grandparents in keeping me in the dark. It's pitiful. I've toiled my whole life and am left with nothing but aches and pains. Right before I died, Xunyan even brought Xiahe to flaunt their love in front of me. Show me just how foolish I've been. Does the whole village know you've been sleeping with Xiahe? Did you really think I was blind to your little affair? You two adulterers even tried to steal my chance to go to university. And how many favors has your family taken from mine? Leaning on our family connection, you came to borrow money again and again. Have you ever paid it back? The moment my parents died, you were in a hurry to swallow up my family's inheritance. What did you think would become of me, a girl left all alone? Sun Yan's face flushed and paled in turns. He knew every word I said was the truth, but he never expected that I truly no longer cared for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spoken so harshly. Jingyue, I know my family wronged you before, but was it really necessary to put it so bluntly? What, so the authorities can set fires, but the common people aren't allowed to light a lamp? Zhang Mingyan finally understood what the argument was about. Su Jingyue was a classmate and someone the teacher held in high regard. She couldn't just be pushed around with a few harsh words. How dare you come to the gate of Jing University to slander me and Su Jingyue, accusing us of having an affair? You know perfectly well she's moved on with her life, yet you still come to harass her. Isn't this just pure bitterness? What's it to you? Su Jingyue is my wife. This is a family matter. And it's none of your business. Sun Yan was so furious his eyes seemed to spit fire. I, however, just smiled. Sun Yan, did your parents know you ran off like this? Do you really think I'd dare to call off the wedding and humiliate your family without a backup plan? Why don't you go home and see how your parents are doing right now? Sun Yan returned home in a hurry. The village chief also sent me a letter, detailing what had been happening in the village these past few days. After I broke off the engagement, the village chief backed up my story, clarifying that there was no formal marriage arrangement between our families. It was all just a verbal promise. I also went to the village chief and explained my actual situation and the intentions of the Su family parents. The village chief has his own considerations in this matter. I believe that, under everyone's watchful eyes, the Su family parents won't dare to make any more plans for me. On top of that, the debt Xiahe owes my family is going to give Sun Yan quite the headache. It wasn't until I went back home to visit my parents' graves that the villagers finally told me that Sun Yan and Xiahe had left to seek their fortune elsewhere. Xiahe hadn't gotten into university. Her parents were just ordinary folks in the city, with no means to get her transferred back. All that talk about her parents being high-ranking officials was a lie. When Sun Yan found out, he was furious. He went ahead and married her anyway. A few more years passed, and I returned to the village. I asked Auntie Li to find that trunk of my parents' belongings for me. You, dear, I've kept all of these safe for you. Auntie Li held my hand and chattered away. You wouldn't believe it. The Su family is really living it up these days. I heard Sun Yan made a fortune out there and is coming back soon to take his parents away with him. Hearing that was a bit of a surprise. I never thought Sun Yan would end up walking the same path as his previous life. Can't help but sigh. He really is a child of destiny. But you know, his wife now isn't that Xiahe. It turned out that in his very first year away, Sun Yan sold Xiahe, essentially handing her over to one of his business partners. Bitter and resentful, Xiahe not only sabotaged several of Sun Yan's business deals but also thoroughly ruined his reputation. Everyone knew Sun Yan's fortune was built on selling his own wife. However, his business ventures afterward never took off like they did in his previous life. He merely scraped by. As I passed by the Su family's house, old Mrs. Su was standing at the door and spotted me. Her eyes were full of resentment as she looked at me, yet she didn't dare to approach. I had heard a thing or two about her. That time I broke off the engagement, Mother Su had already set her sights on a shopfront in town, counting on my dowry to help cover the cost. My leaving ruined her plans and made her a laughingstock in the village. I had already asked Auntie Li to spread the word about what the Su family had done. Along with the money that Xiahe and the Zus owed me, when she wanted to complain to someone, no one would pay her any mind. The Su family's reputation in the village was in tatters, which is why they wanted Sun Yan to come back and take them away. I let out a long, deep sigh of relief. In my past life, I wasted my entire existence on the Su family, yet their parents lived out their days in peace, and in this life, they've finally gotten their comeuppance. I've finally clawed my way out of the mire. And all of this is about to end. Well, if it isn't Jingyue, it's been so many years, and you still can't afford a trinket from a street stall. I turned to look, and it was actually Xiahe, whom I hadn't seen in ages. Her face now looks much like mine did in my past life, haggard, as if she were in her 30s, with dry, yellowish hair. So, this running a business that Auntie Lee talked about was just setting up a street stall, but I don't have any intention of kicking her while she's down. She seems to be having a pretty rough time of it, no rush, take your time picking." The vendor paid no attention to Xia He and instead cheerfully greeted me. It was then that I realized I had been lingering at this stall for far too long. The reason was simple: the items at this stall were just too trendy, standing in stark contrast to the surrounding ones. Xia He was still over there making snide remarks. "Su Jinyue. Don't say I'm tricking you. Buying anything from her stall is just throwing money away. It's all a bunch of random junk. Not that you could afford it anyway." I glanced at what I was wearing today. It was a bit plain, but that's because I'd just come from home. But I knew in my heart, these things might not seem like much now, but they'll be all the rage before long. Just then, a somewhat weathered voice called out, "Jinyue." I turned to look in the direction of the voice. A dark-skinned man was staring at me, his eyes bloodshot and unwavering. I searched my memory and ventured, "Sun Yan." Hearing me call his name, Sun Yan grew visibly agitated. Xia He grabbed Sun Yan by the ear. "What's this? Daring to make eyes at your old flame right in front of me." Sun Yan's face fell instantly, and he pushed Xia He away with palpable impatience, right there in front of everyone. The two of them started bickering and hurling insults again. I just found the whole scene distasteful, so I turned to the stall owner and asked, "How about we go into business together?" After I finished negotiating with the stall owner, Sun Yan started following behind me. I let out a sigh and stopped walking. "What is it?" Sun Yan glanced at me, his expression complicated. He must have overheard my discussion with the stall owner about going into business together. "I provide the capital. The stall owner provides the labor." Jinyue. "Why go to all that trouble? If we had gotten married back then, the money would have stayed in the family. Why involve an outsider?" I let out a bitter laugh, astonished that he could still be so shameless. "Stop right there. We have nothing to do with each other now, and you have a wife." Sun Yan opened his mouth but said nothing. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "I'm sorry. What my family did back then was truly dishonorable. My parents were in the wrong. I shouldn't have gotten involved with Xia He, either. You're 100 times better than that crazy woman." I realize that now. As he spoke, a flash of ferocity passed through Sun Yan's eyes. "She cut off my family jewels, she doomed my family line to extinction, and then she thought she could just walk away. I'll keep her chained to my side forever." I glanced down at him in surprise, thinking to myself that karma really does come full circle. Xia He was never a good person to begin with. In my past life, I was ill, but it wasn't so bad that I'd die within 2 weeks of seeing Sun Yan. It was Xia He who cut off my medical funds, leaving me to die without treatment. Now, in this life, it's finally Sun Yan's turn to taste the bitter fruit of Xia He's actions. I can't be bothered to listen to Sun Yan's complaints anymore. It's all nonsense. What's between you and Xia He is none of my business, and I have no obligation to listen to your complaints. To put it bluntly, our relationship is so bad we might as well be enemies, so don't expect any sympathy from me. If Xia He is the one who hates you the most, my hatred for you is no less than hers. Let's not meet again." I turned and walked away. The pain of my past life is over. In this life, it's my turn to be happy. Story 2. In the middle of a Category 10 typhoon, my husband abandoned me in the raging storm all night for his childhood sweetheart. The moment I got free, I went straight to him to file for divorce. I won't hesitate to take back every single thing that's rightfully mine. I originally wanted to take our son with me. My own son is just like his father. Knowing I was leaving, he looked at me with utter contempt. "Oh, please, you're just throwing a tantrum now. Don't expect me to care when you come crying back to see me." Later, after cutting ties with both father and son, I lived a life of pure freedom and joy. But that father and son just kept loitering around my doorstep every single day. "We were wrong. Please come back." Hello everyone, and welcome to Glimmering Whispers. Hey, this is a private event. You can't just barge in here. At Fu Qian's birthday party, I ignored the security guard's attempts to stop me and pushed the door open to enter the private room. Fu Qian was holding a wine glass, chatting and laughing with the people around him. His childhood sweetheart, Bai Qiao, followed closely behind him, like a bride toasting guests. The moment he saw it was me, Fu Qian froze. The entire noisy private room fell into a dead silence. They all looked at me with a hint of awkwardness, all because, as Fu Qian's wife, I didn't even have the right to attend this birthday party. Fu Qian came from a family of lawyers. He inherited the family law firm at a young age and had already made a name for himself as an elite attorney in the industry. Everyone present was his employee or a close friend. Isn't that attorney Fu's wife? Honestly, she looks so much like a housewife. She's nothing like Miss Bai Qiao. Is it really appropriate to say that? Hey, what's the big deal? Can't you see Miss Baicho is about to get promoted? Everyone was whispering to each other. A wave of sorrow welled up inside me. I've been married for almost 10 years, and a homemaker for just as long. I'm utterly exhausted, and I've lost all the sparkle I once had. Of course, she couldn't match Baicho's graceful elegance. The other day, we had a typhoon of a severity not seen in decades. I got trapped under a bridge by the typhoon while trying to buy a limited edition blind box my son wanted. In the howling wind and torrential rain, my car stalled in the floodwater. In despair, I called my husband in tears, pleading for help. He didn't answer my calls all night. Thankfully, I was rescued by a kind stranger. It was only after I got home that I found out he had driven dozens of kilometers that night, all because he was worried about Baicho, who had gone out for a girls' night. What are you doing here? This place is full of. Fu Qian frowned at me. I cut him off directly and handed him the divorce papers I was holding. Let's get a divorce. Fu Qian didn't take them, nor did he look. His face was just cold. It's my birthday. If you want to make a scene, do it at home. Don't embarrass yourself here. In his eyes, this was just another one of my attention-seeking stunts. I don't have time for your games. Look it over. And if there are no issues, sign it. Now, I stubbornly continued to hold the divorce papers out in front of him. Fu Qian could no longer sit still. He shot me a suspicious glance before hurriedly looking down to scan the document. Property, savings, a car. You're asking for quite a lot. I had made it perfectly clear. I wanted 20 million in marital assets. Along with 2 properties and 1 car, I added one more thing. Not much. I've left the most important thing for you. He was stunned. What thing? I said calmly. Son, I don't want it anymore. It's yours, Xiaoyu. Are you insane? Listen to yourself. What kind of mother says something like that? Fu Qian finally couldn't hold back and raised his voice in a shout. Hey, Qian, don't get so worked up. It's your birthday. His good buddy Lu Yin, standing nearby, quickly grabbed his arm to hold him back. I know this guy. He seems to be a college classmate of his, but they're birds of a feather. He's always stirring up trouble between me and my husband. Didn't you use your son to force him into marriage back then? And now you're willing to just give him up? Fu Qian fixed me with a cold, mocking stare. Yeah, back when I told him I was pregnant. But Fu Qian just scoffed. Did you skip the pill on purpose? Trying to trap me into marriage with a trick like that is pretty low, don't you think? I can still recall his heartless, icy expression in my midnight dreams, yet the tender, affectionate man he once was bore no resemblance to this. In the end, I insisted on having the child, and his family did pressure him to marry me quickly because of this son. Looking back now, it was probably the worst decision I ever made. My parents passed away when I was very young, with no one to care for me. I went to all my prenatal checkups alone, went to the hospital to give birth alone, and went through my postpartum confinement alone. He seemed angry that I had made the decision to have the child on my own, and he wouldn't even let me hire a confinement nanny. It was almost a week after the baby was born before Fu Qian finally came home, and he brought a flashily dressed woman with him. He didn't come to see me right away, didn't even bother to check on our child or see if he was healthy. I carefully carried our son over, hoping he'd at least take a look. Instead, I found him in the study with that woman, flipping through an old photo album. Look, Qiao, this was when we first met. You were so shy back then, too embarrassed to even call me senior. Fu Qian's tone was a tenderness and affection I had never heard from him before. Baicho nestled beside him, giggling. Senior, you're teasing me again. You were blushing and flustered back then too. You couldn't even look me in the eye. They reminisced about the past, trading stories back and forth, while only my heart felt as if it had been doused in ice water. Baicho suddenly asked, aren't you going to see your child? Fu Qian's tone instantly turned grave. I'd rather it wasn't my child. I almost wish it wasn't my child. With just one sentence, every last bit of my hope was instantly snuffed out. In tears, I carried the child back to the room alone. I don't understand. If he really doesn't love me, why is he even with me? I was later told that the woman by Fu Qian's side was named Baicho, his junior from university. She was also his first love. As time went on, our son grew up, and I named him Fu Chen. It seemed Fu Qian didn't love him. In the beginning, whenever Fu Chen felt wronged in his presence, he would always come running back to me, clutching his little toy and crying. I would comfort him. It's okay, Chen Chen, you have mommy. Mommy will always love you. I thought my son and I could go on like this, keeping each other warm and depending on each other for survival. As he grew older, he began to resent my closeness, even hiding it from me to ask his dad to attend parent-teacher meetings instead. It wasn't until the teacher called me one day, saying Fu Chen had slipped away from the school dismissal line on his own. I searched from afternoon until nearly dawn, only to find that Fu Chen had already returned home. In his hands, he was carrying a bunch of the junk food I never let him eat. Frantic with worry, I asked him what had happened. My son looked completely unconcerned. "Why are you yelling? Aunt Shacho took me out to play and bought me lots of treats. Don't you know I hate you the most? All you ever do is boss me around." I looked at this son of mine. The one I carried for 10 long months and painstakingly raised, attending to every little detail myself. He was starting to resent me, just like his father did. Later, Fu Chen went on another out-of-town vacation with Bai Qiu, keeping it a secret from me once again. I tidied up his chaotic room, tears streaming down my face as I worked. I found his notebook, which he always kept securely locked, lying open on the desk. I don't like prying into my child's privacy, but in that single accidental glance as I closed the notebook, I felt as if I'd been struck by lightning. Mom is ugly and mean, Aunt Shacho is so much better. I wish she'd hurry up and replace that awful old woman as my new mom. I endured all of Fu Qian's scorn and neglect for his sake. I suffered so much during the pregnancy and childbirth. Later, I poured everything I had into caring for him and being good to him, and in the end, all I got in return was this one sentence. "It's not too late for you to regret this. For the sake of our long history, I'll give you one chance to take it back." Fu Qinian curled the corner of his lips, looking at me with a mocking gaze. In his eyes, I was still that gold-digging woman who would go to any lengths to marry him. "No, I've made up my mind. I don't want him." Perhaps my attitude was too resolute, for a flicker of shock appeared in Fu Qinian's eyes. Fu Qinian and I had been together for 3 years by then. His family kept pressuring him to get married, but he always had an excuse to put it off. I asked him about it a few times myself, and he would fly into a rage at me. "How did you become like this? Does getting married or not have any bearing on our feelings for each other?" Later, when I suddenly discovered I was pregnant, his rage reached its absolute peak. "You just want to use this child to threaten me, don't you? Let me tell you, even if you manage to force your way into the Fu family, I will never acknowledge you as my wife." I used to naively believe it was my persistence that changed the once gentle Fu Qinian into this. It was only later that I found out he was just waiting for Bai Qiu to change her mind. That's all. The day Bai Qiu turned down the offer to stay for graduate school and left for the other side of the ocean, Fu Qinian, who had always gently turned me down, suddenly said yes to my confession. Back then, I was foolish enough to believe my sincerity had finally moved him. I was merely picking up the trash that Bai Qiu had discarded. Fu Qinian stared at me intently. I met his gaze without flinching. I'd completely forgotten. How long has it been since he last looked me in the eye like this? Suddenly, Fu Qinian slammed his glass down on the table and seized my wrist. I, Fu Qinian, am not some fool who can be threatened with divorce by a woman. I'm giving you one last chance. Think carefully. After all the effort you went through back then, wasn't it all just to marry me? Using this tactic now will only make me despise you more. He glared at me with a fierce intensity in his eyes. I didn't say a word, simply gesturing for him to sign. Fu Qinian angrily shoved my hand away and swiftly scrawled his signature across the divorce papers. "Fine, I'll agree to it. Right here in front of all these people." After signing, as if to humiliate me, he slapped the document squarely against my chest. "You brought this on yourself. Don't you dare come crawling back to me when you're in trouble. And I hope you don't regret the decision you made today." With that, he shot me one last, searing glare. Bai Qiu, with her sickly sweet, two-faced tone, chimed in to twist the knife. "Sister Qiu, thank you for giving up such a great man like Qinian for me." The old me would have been utterly humiliated and furious, but now, I just gave a faint, cool smile. "I don't make a habit of picking up trash. If you like it, you can have it." Bai Qiu's face stiffened, but I didn't give her a chance to speak. I turned directly to Fu Qinian and continued, "Don't worry, I won't regret this, and I expect you to honor the agreement. Just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean I can't afford a better one to take you to court." With that, I turned and walked out of the private room, not bothering to look at Fu Qinian's expression. I didn't need to look. I could just imagine how livid he must be, but what did I care? While waiting for the elevator not far away, I overheard the conversation between Lu Yan and Fu Qian coming from the private room. "So you've really decided to divorce her?" For some reason, Lu Yan's tone sounded almost pleased. I had expected Fu Qian to confirm it without hesitation, but he remained silent for a moment. "I'll just sign it to get her off my back for now. She's being stubborn, so let's just get past this first. Mark my words, she'll be back within 3 days, full of regret and begging me." Lu Yan seemed to be getting agitated. "Aren't you just making a spectacle of yourself for everyone? I simply don't understand what a woman like Qiao Yu has that's worth you clinging to." A smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. "Fu Qian, I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you." Lu Yen was Fu Qian's university classmate and seems to have witnessed all the little moments between Fu Qian and Bai Qiu in the past. What's more, he seems to really dislike me. Every time Fu Qian and I argued, not only would he not try to mediate, he'd pour fuel on the fire, seemingly terrified we wouldn't break up. What kind of true friend would ever wish for his own brother to lose his family and be left all alone? Enough. Maybe it was just my imagination. But I thought I detected a hint of agitation in Fu Qian's voice, but the elevator had arrived, and I had no interest in hearing the rest of their conversation. As soon as I got home, I started packing my things. To my surprise, Fu Qian had actually come back. He usually parties until the early hours at these kinds of gatherings. He's never come home this early before. Have you lost your mind? You're leaving home? Fu Qian asked me, his voice laced with disbelief. He probably couldn't believe that I could leave him and our son behind to start a new, independent life. I zipped up the last suitcase without looking up. Fu Qian, do you think this is some kind of game to me? As per the agreement, our son is yours alone from now on. Don't contact me unless it's absolutely necessary. Without waiting for him to speak, I dragged my suitcase and left. Hey, you're not even taking this. Fu Qian snatched up a necklace and blocked my path. His expression seemed both frantic and fierce. I took a glance. When we got married, Fu Qian didn't go with me to pick out wedding rings. He just had a pair of very simple, plain bands made. Later, probably because he felt it was too embarrassing for his reputation, he had a pink diamond necklace worth over 100,000 custom made for me on my birthday. I was overjoyed. From then on, no matter the occasion, except when showering, that necklace always hung gleaming around my neck. No. I don't want it. It's an eyesore. I pushed Fu Qian aside and headed straight for the door. My son was still awake, sprawled out in a tangled mess on the sofa watching cartoons. I've taught him since he was little to sit up properly, or he'll end up with scoliosis at a young age, and it'll be a nightmare to fix. But after hanging out with Bai Qiu for a while, he'd gotten used to lounging around and rolling about without a care in the world. If I said too much, he'd call me a nasty old witch. Well, at least I won't be bothering with it anymore. Seeing me head for the door without a word, Fu Qian suddenly paused the cartoon and gave me a long look. Where are you going? Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, your father and I are divorced. You'll be staying with him. Since you can't stand me anyway, you don't have to call me mom anymore. Really? Fu Qian's eyes suddenly lit up, and to everyone's surprise, he broke into a smile. Does that mean Aunt Xiaoqiu can be my mom now? That's awesome. He burst out laughing and turned the cartoon back on. He then casually picked up a snack from beside him and started munching. Fu Qian had bad teeth as a child and was a frequent visitor to the dentist. The doctor said he was born with weak tooth enamel, so he really needs to cut back on sweets and brush more often. That's one of the reasons I don't want him eating junk food, but Bai Qiu keeps bringing home all these sugary snacks. Lately, I've noticed a few blackened cavities in Fu Qian's teeth, but what does any of that have to do with me? I pulled my suitcase and left home without a second thought. I hailed a cab and went straight to the hotel I had booked. I booked a suite here for a month, planning to truly unwind. For the rest of my life, I never want to be anyone's caretaker again. Fu Qian may not have been a good husband, but at least he was a decent man. He promptly transferred the amount specified in the agreement to me. The RV was already in my name, so no transfer of ownership was needed. Having neglected my appearance for years, I headed straight to the largest shopping center. I was determined to buy some new clothes and cosmetics to help me recapture the beauty of my youth. Laden with shopping bags, I was just wondering whether to find a dessert shop to take a break. A little girl suddenly wrapped her arms around my leg and burst into loud, wailing sobs. She looked a few years younger than Fu Qian. I finally managed to calm her down with some candy I just bought, and she told me her name was Lele. Be a good girl, Lele. How about Auntie takes you to the information desk to find your mom and dad? Lele suddenly opened her big eyes wide and stared straight at me. My heart skipped a beat, leaving me in a daze. There was a time when Fu Qian looked at me with that same gaze. It was the purest form of love and devotion. As if I were the only angel in this world who could protect him. Mommy. Mommy's gone. It's just Daddy now. Lele clung tightly to my leg and suddenly began rubbing his face against it. My heart sank once more, and I hurriedly scooped the child up into my arms. I never imagined this poor child's circumstances were so tragic. They made several announcements for the missing person over the public address system. Soon after, a man came running over, completely out of breath. Thank you so much. I just turned my head for a second and the kid was gone. It was terrifying. The man looked at me and suddenly froze. I was taken aback, too. The man was none other than Fu Qian's university classmate, Lu Yen, that despicable man who was always sowing discord. I handed the child to him, my face expressionless. Keep a close eye on your own child. If they run into the wrong sort of person, they certainly won't be waiting here for you to come and get them. But to my surprise, Lele clung tightly to my neck and wouldn't let go. Mommy, mommy. Luyan's face instantly flushed with embarrassment. I'm sorry, she's never known her mother, and I wouldn't want you to get the wrong idea. I shook my head, cutting him off. There's no wrong idea to get. Once the cooling off period is over, he and I will be completely done. But you, I had no idea you had a daughter. Luyan was taken aback for a moment. He patted Lele's head and said nothing. Perhaps there's something difficult to talk about. And I'm not one to pry into other people's private matters. The child is frightened, but she'll likely calm down soon. If you don't mind, I'll take her to get something to eat and rest for a bit. Once she's settled, she'll be ready to go home with you. I genuinely felt a pang of tenderness for this adorable child. Luyan looked somewhat awkward, but seeing Lele clinging to me and refusing to let go, he could only nod in agreement. I'll leave it to you, then. I went to a nearby dessert shop and ordered something suitable for a child for Lele. Luyan kept sneaking glances at me. I raised an eyebrow and shot a look back. What? Are you worried I'll go back to Fu Qian and ruin his thing with Bai Qiu? Don't worry. I'm absolutely not going back to my ex. No, that's not what I meant. It's just, I never thought he truly loved you. It's better to let go early than to let him keep hurting you. Luyan stammered out his words, and Bai Qiu, well. She was my junior at school, and I did have feelings for her for a while, but that's all in the past. I just don't want to see you both trapped in a wrong and painful relationship, drifting further apart. It's no good for anyone. Forget it, it doesn't matter now. There's no point talking about the past. I shook my head and went back to feeding Lele. Watching me feed Lele bite by bite, Luyan couldn't help but smile. It seems this child really likes you, since you and Qian, Miss Chiao. I've finally found you. Before Luyan could finish speaking, his words were abruptly cut off by a sudden voice. I was taken aback for a moment. It was old Ma, Fu Qian's driver. Is something the matter? The driver looked nervous, his face beaded with sweat. I tried calling you many times, but you didn't answer. That's why I had to find a way to come see you directly. I'm truly sorry. You need to get to the hospital right away. The young master had a severe allergic reaction, went into anaphylactic shock, and was hospitalized. It's extremely serious. My initial instinct was to refuse outright. Luyan looked at me. Anaphylactic shock is very dangerous. It can easily become life-threatening if you don't go see him. You might regret it for the rest of your life. I hesitated for a moment. After all, he was my own child, the one I carried for 10 months. Even though I was completely disappointed in him and felt nothing, it was a matter of life and death. I suppose I should go see him. But, Lele, I wanted to leave Lele with Luyan. A hospital is no place for a child, after all. But the moment Lele saw me let go, she would burst into uncontrollable sobs, left with no choice. I had to get Luyan's permission to take Lele along with the driver. Fortunately, by the time I got to the hospital, Fuchin was already out of danger. The doctor looked at me and asked, "Are you her mother?" I glanced at Bai Qiu beside me. Yes, but the child is currently living with his father and stepmother. The doctor couldn't help but frown and shoot a glance at Bai Qiu. The child is allergic to mangoes. Why did he eat so many? I was taken aback for a moment. Bai Qiu was well aware that Fuchin had been allergic to mangoes since childhood. Who would believe it wasn't intentional? Consuming that much all at once, Bai Qiu scoffed, looking completely indifferent. He was the one who couldn't control his own cravings. I tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. So, it's my fault now. She probably figures she's firmly in power now, so she's not even bothering to keep up the kind stepmother act anymore. I was just about to give her a piece of my mind when the driver hurried out of the hospital room. The young master is awake. Fuchin lay weakly in the hospital bed, his whole body looking puffy and swollen, his eyes narrowed to slits. With great effort, he turned his head. The moment he saw me, he burst into loud sobs. "Mom, I feel awful. I didn't want the mango juice." She said there was nothing else at home and poured me a huge glass. I couldn't finish it and felt terrible. And then she scolded me for being wasteful. Woo woo woo. Lele, who was in my arms, was startled by Fuchin's appearance and buried himself in my embrace, letting out a few choked sobs. Mommy's scared. It seemed Fuchin only then noticed I was holding this child. That's bullshit. She's my mom. Despite his frailty, he tried to sit up, but he was too weak to move, and tears simply streamed down his face. "Mom, why is this child calling you mom? I'm your only child, say something. Tell me it's not true." I hadn't even gotten around to notifying Fu Qian yet, and he beat me to it by calling first. "Hello, Luyan told me Qinchin's in trouble. Why didn't you call me?" The sound of him yelling instantly filled me with disgust. I'm not your child's guardian, so why should I be the one calling you? You'd be better off asking who he was with when it happened, I replied coldly, done with indulging him. Bai Qiu was staring at me icily from a corner. I averted my gaze. And she shot me a glare in return. I hung up the phone, walked over, and slapped her across the face. She let out a piercing scream. You crazy bitch, what are you doing? I sneered coldly. Even if I've disowned him, Fu Chen is still my own flesh and blood. What you did was premeditated murder. I didn't hit you hard enough. Bai Qiu, her face flushed crimson, lunged at me. I caught her wrist and slapped her again with my other hand. She completely broke down and began to wail. How dare you hit me? Just you wait until Qian gets here. If he finds out you laid a hand on me, he'll make you pay. Are you really that stupid? Or are you just pretending? Fu Chen is his only son, you nearly got him killed. Do you honestly think Fu Qian would still help you? Upon hearing my words, Bai Qiu shuddered instantly, but she was still putting on a brave face, refusing to back down. Don't think this scares me, you wicked woman. Don't you talk to my mother. Suddenly, a pillow came flying hard toward Bai Qiu. She let out another shriek, stumbling back 2 steps in fright from the pillow. Young master, at the driver's startled cry, Fu Chen suddenly lunged to his feet and threw himself straight at me. He even ripped out the 4 needle in his hand. He lashed out at Bai Qiu with all his might, hitting and cursing, and when he was pinned down, he resorted to spitting. Ugh, I hate you. My tooth is broken and it hurts, and you won't even take me to the dentist. You only let the family cook what you like. I'm never full. I hate you. The little one in my arms, Lele, was frightened by all the commotion. She trembled and clung tightly to my neck. I'm scared. Mommy, let's go home. I want daddy. I figured Fu Qian would come as soon as he got the news, and since Fu Chen seemed perfectly lively for now, I just nodded and prepared to take Lele and leave the hospital first. But I had only taken 1 step when Fu Chen threw himself on the floor and wrapped his arms around my leg. The foresight he'd ripped out was still bleeding profusely. I had never seen Fu Chen cry like this before. Mom, you don't want me anymore. You have another child now. Help me. This woman is really going to kill me. I was holding Lele, so I couldn't go and pull him away, but I didn't know what to say, either. This child had long since broken my heart. It's only now, with Bai Qiu showing his true colors, that he's starting to miss how good I was to him. I cast a pleading look at the driver and the nurse. They hurried over and pulled Fu Chen away, finally allowing me to make my escape. As I left the hospital room, Bai Qiu stared at me with red-rimmed, unblinking eyes. The spot where I had hit him was already beginning to swell. Did you pull some trick? Why is Qian still so distant with me even after you left? I was a bit surprised, but also found it rather amusing. You're already living in my house, taking care of my son. What more do you want? He and I are still in our cooling off period. Do you really expect him to marry you right now? No, that's not it. Bai Qiu suddenly faltered, looking at me with an expression of utter resentment. He never gave me any hope. He just sent me here first to take care of Fu Chen. You're uglier and less educated than I am. You think you're something special just because you had a son. I watched the woman's hysterical outburst. I shook my head and turned to leave, afraid of scaring Lele again. Since when did Bai Qiu get jealous of me? I found it quite amusing. In the past, I would have been smug about that for ages, but now, I don't care anymore. I don't care about Fu Qian at all. I had walked a long way, but I could still hear Bai Qiu's hysterical screams. It was as if she had gone mad. Fu Qian arrived quickly, and we happened to run into each other right at the hospital entrance. He seemed like he wanted to say something to me, but his gaze kept drifting to Inan in my arms. You'd better go in and check on your son, and your little girlfriend too. They'd both gone completely mad. I cut him off before he could get a word out. She's not my girlfriend. Fu Qian gave me a look that seemed rather complicated, but seeing that I was in no state to pay him any mind, he rushed straight into the hospital. My phone suddenly started beeping. It was a message from Luyan. Sorry, I should have been here earlier, but something came up. I'm on my way to the hospital to pick up Lele now. Could you please wait a little longer for me? There's a large fountain at the hospital entrance, and many people toss coins into it to make a wish. Lele was enjoying watching it, so I stayed there with her, waiting for Luyan. A sudden inspiration struck me, and I handed Lele a coin. Do you have a wish? You can make one. Lele's eyes suddenly lit up, and she cradled the coin reverently in her hands. She looked at me and closed her eyes. I wish for Mom to come home with me. With that, she tossed the coin straight in. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but I felt a pang of sadness. I couldn't help thinking what a mess Luyan had made of things. It was so pitiful for such a young child to be without a mother's care. Ha, that sounds exactly like the wish she'd make. Luyan's voice suddenly came from behind me. I looked up, Leilei's in a much better mood now, you should take her home. Lu Yan looked at me, then at Leilei, as if he wanted to say something. Well, Leilei isn't actually my son, his parents, they passed away a long time ago. I was taken aback, not expecting him to bring this up so suddenly. Lu Yan continued, Leilei's father was my childhood friend. Both he and his wife were police officers. My buddy was killed during a covert operation, his wife. When Leilei was just a year old, she tried to stop a crime on her way home from a late shift. She was killed by the assailant. At this, Lu Yan's voice grew a little hoarse. I was astonished by Leilei's background, yet also puzzled as to why Lu Yan was explaining this to me. I'm sorry for your loss, I said, after a moment's thought. It was the only thing I could think to say. Alright, let me see you home first. Lu Yan gave a wry smile and jingled the car keys in his hand. The hotel I was staying at wasn't far from the hospital, just a short walk away. I was just about to refuse when someone suddenly placed a hand on my shoulder from behind, that familiar woody scent. It was Fu Qian. A chill ran through me, and I instinctively recoiled, wrenching my hand from his with disgust. Seeing my resistance, or was I imagining it, I saw, for the very first time, a look of startled sorrow flash across Fu Qian's face. He glanced at the child in my arms and frowned. Why is Leilei with you? Give him back to Lu Yan. The accusatory tone in his voice made my blood boil instantly. Just as I was about to explain, Leilei clung to my neck, a little frightened. He's so scary. Mommy's scared. Hearing the child call me mommy, Fu Qian's face darkened even more. When did you two get together? Is that why you got divorced? Seeing this, Lu Yan quickly stepped in between them. Are you insane? Leilei just met Xiaoyu today. Are you seriously doubting even me? Cursing under his breath, Lu Yan tried to take Leilei, but suddenly froze completely. Look out. I didn't understand what he meant, but a strange sensation from behind sent an instant chill down my spine. Instinctively, I tightened my grip on the child in my arms. A flower pot came crashing down from above, striking me squarely on the shoulder. The agony of my bones shattering sent me into instant, black oblivion. In my final flicker of consciousness, I heard Fu Qian's heart-wrenching scream. Xiaoyu. The next time I awoke, I was in a hospital. A sharp, throbbing pain shot through my shoulder. Fu Qian gently took my hand and brushed the stray hairs from my forehead. I had no idea how long I'd been unconscious, but he seemed to have aged overnight. His face was pale and drawn, with dark circles under his eyes. Don't worry, you've had surgery. It was a fracture, nothing more serious, as if worried it would tire me to speak. He hurried to explain, even his voice was trembling. Leilei. I managed to ask, my voice hoarse and strained. When Fu Qian heard me ask about Leilei, his expression darkened instantly. She's perfectly fine. You risked your life to protect her, so of course she's okay. Anyone would have instinctively tried to protect a child in that situation. I don't know what he's being so sarcastic about. I shook my head slightly, which tugged at my wound, making me wince. Don't move, stay still. Fu Qian immediately fussed over me, supporting me as he poured a glass of warm water from the side. He dipped a cotton swab in it and gently brought it to my lips. You don't need to be here. Go take care of your son. It's not safe for him to be around Baiqiu. I turned my head away, feeling a bit awkward. At the mere mention of Baiqiu's name, Fu Qian's gaze turned sharp as a blade. Do you know how that flower pot came crashing down? I was taken aback. I was standing directly beneath Fu Chen's hospital room at the time. Could it be her? My heart gave a violent jolt. I knew she wanted to take my place and steal Fu Qian away, but I never imagined she could be so vicious as to want me dead. Fu Qian clenched his fist, the bones cracking audibly. It's her. I've already called the police. I just got back from the station. Lu Yan walked in from outside, holding Leilei in his arms. The moment Leilei saw me, her lips quivered. Looking like she was about to cry, Lu Yan looked at me, his eyes seeming a little red. Xiaoyu. I'm sorry for always being so self-righteous before. I thought you were suffering too much by staying with Qian, and that he and Baiqiu were just torturing each other, unable to be together. I was being presumptuous. As he spoke, he glanced hesitantly at Fu Qian. I happened to look into something about why Baiqiu gave up her guaranteed postgraduate spot and left so suddenly all those years ago. A flicker passed through Fu Qian's eyes, but he remained silent. Lu Yan let out a long, heavy sigh. While she was with you, she was actually being kept by a wealthy foreign businessman. He promised her that if she would stay with him until his dying day, his billions would be hers. She lied to you, saying she was going abroad to study. In reality, she went to be with that businessman, but who knew he had a wife? After he died, his legal wife immediately seized control of all the money. Baiqiu ended up with nothing, so she remembered you again. That's why she came back to get close to you. The more he spoke, the darker Fu Qian's expression became. He suddenly leaned back, slumping wearily into the chair. Stop talking. He covered his face tightly with his hands. In the sunlight, I could have sworn I saw huge teardrops rolling down his face. I'm sorry, it's all my fault, Chaoyu. Can you forgive me just one more time, please, give me another chance. He began to sob, his cries choked with emotion. After all these years, this is the first time I've seen this man break down in such a messy, uncontrollable way. During my recovery, Fu Qian brought Fu Chen to see me every single day. Please forgive me one more time, my love, I was awful before. A complete scumbag. I swear on my life I'll treat you right from now on. Mom, I miss you so much. I'm your own flesh and blood, your son. Do you really not want me anymore? That father and son would cry at my bedside every single day. It drove me up the wall, so I kicked them both out without exception. All they did in front of me was cry and apologize, but my heart was like still water, utterly unmoved. It's only because Bai Qiu turned out to be such a terrible person that they feel this remorse and finally remember my kindness. What if Bai Qiu is actually a good person? So I just deserve to be thrown out by that father and son. I see things perfectly clearly. They don't love me. They just love what I selflessly do for them. Once my injuries had improved a bit, I simply asked Lu Yan for a favor and had myself transferred to a different hospital. Finally, I got some peace and quiet. On the day I was discharged, somehow, Fu Qian found out I had been hospitalized there. It was a beautiful, sunny day, but the sight of him instantly soured my mood. Fu Qian was holding a huge bouquet of roses, and Fu Chen had a small bunch of carnations. The two of them, one tall and one small, walked towards me. Fu Qian gazed at me with deep affection. Darling, please give me another chance. For the rest of my life, I will love you with everything I have. Fu Chen also looked at me with pleading eyes. Mom, I know I was wrong. I promise I'll be good and study hard from now on. I got trapped under a bridge by the typhoon while trying to buy my son a limited edition blind box he wanted. He left me there. I was instantly speechless. He kept professing his love, yet he resorted to this blatant emotional blackmail in broad daylight to force me to back down, without so much as a glance in their direction. I walked straight to the car waiting for me up ahead. They both turned to look at me in shock. The crowd erupted in jeers. You can tell just by looking at him that he's done something wrong. That girl did the right thing. Exactly, she wouldn't be so harsh otherwise. Of course, there will inevitably be some negative elements mixed in. At the very least, when parents are arguing, they should still look after their child, the poor kid. But I had absolutely no desire to get involved. I know very clearly now that I am in control of my own life. What other people choose to say has nothing to do with me. In the driver's seat sat a silent Lu Yan. Without a word, as we had agreed, he drove me straight to the airport. Lu Yan didn't ask any unnecessary questions along the way, busying himself with helping me check in my luggage. It wasn't until I was about to enter the security checkpoint that he finally looked at me, his expression tinged with bitterness. Are you sure you won't stay a little longer? Seeing my resolute expression, he changed his tune. Then Lele and I will come visit you. I gave a faint smile and waved my hand. I'll come visit Lele, so you don't have to go to the trouble. After all, I'm not her real mother, and it's not good for her to become too dependent on me. My words completely dashed Lu Yan's hopes. I could tell he had feelings for me. For years, he'd been trying to persuade me to divorce Fu Qian. He's been visiting me frequently these past few days and has been a tremendous help, but I can't forgive the way he was, nor the things he said in front of Fu Qian. To love someone isn't about arrogantly doing things that end up hurting them. Goodbye, I smiled, gave a little wave, and turned to walk through the security checkpoint. The roar of planes beyond the floor-to-ceiling window, with sunlight streaming in. Yes, it's time to turn the page and start a new chapter in life. That's all for today's story. If you've listened this far, please leave a comment saying, "Have a great day every day." Wei Guang wishes everyone happiness each and every day.